Hey guys, I need to give y'all a bit of a backstory video on what happened so you'll know where I'm going. So if you decide to go anywhere, maybe it'll help you make decisions on where you're gonna go and what you do. This is my load for today. I got 2 more parts, but I'm picking them up later. But here we go. Okay, you guys know how back in '98, I hurt my back real bad, and I had to end up selling off everything that I had to try to stay alive for the next couple of years. What you don't know is what came after that, and from that, and through that. And boy, it's kind of a long story, so this might be part 1 or part 3. I don't know where it's going to go. But after I broke my back, I went through 2 years of therapy and stuff, and then I started messing with trucking again in an intrastate capacity. I started working slowly, building my money back up, and over the course of a year of doing everything from selling blood to bartending to trucking, I saved enough money to buy a straight truck, and then another straight truck, and another straight truck. And I got some contracts. And I built my business up over the next 2 years to about $600,000 in net worth, something like that. Now, I was doing really good, but I may have been neglecting some things because after breaking my back, I realized that in trucking, you've got to find an out in trucking. I learned this at 5 years, okay? A lot of people ain't never learned it yet. You have to find an out, not necessarily because you want to quit or anything, but because eventually you're either going to get too old or something's going to happen to you, like breaking your back, and you have to have an income, a source of income regardless. Even if you're paying your taxes properly, Social Security is not something that you really want to get. I mean, unless you have to, right? If you got to have it, I hope it's there for you. But at my age and everything, disability wasn't an option. Thank God I had VA to help me out with therapy and everything, right? So here I am, rebuilding a business from something I didn't know anything about, but I do a lot of studying to learn about stuff, right? 2 years in, I had grown so large that a mega carrier, let's just say a mega carrier, came in and they wanted to buy me out. Now, we need to back up. 3 months before the mega carrier came in and wanted to buy me out for $5 million, I took on a partner because I could not manage the back office any longer with all these trucks and drivers and stuff, right? I was also going through terrible marital strife. So through an LLC, I was trying to make sure that no matter what happened, I would still have a portion of everything. Because you have to protect yourself even against the people that you love. Sometimes, most definitely the people you love, because people go through changes, and that's just the way it works. Now, before I go on with that, I need to say something about when I broke my back. After I broke my back, I started doing a lot of talking to old geezers at the coffee shop and farmers and all these other guys that I knew, right? I did like an apprenticeship with a guy where I followed him around and learned about his business and everything I needed to know about it. Just worked for free until I learned some stuff about it, see if it's something I'd be interested in, and it was. But the cost of getting into that particular business was huge, even if I did have a little bit of experience in the background of that business. Now we flash forward again to the different business that's going to lead me to the one I actually want to do, okay? So, things are humming along and I get this offer to sell. didn't want to sell. My newly formed partner, I had to tell him about it too, right? Now he's got 3 short months in the industry, and he's going to say, yeah, we're going to sell. I go, no, dude, you got like 40%, 48%. You're not. This is my company, right? Made him very upset. We had some very heated arguments over it, because $5 million is $5 million. I don't care how you look at it. And what you think is a friendship can go south real quick in this situation. It's hard to talk about. All right. So then, since I was the guy that was out getting contracts, talking to people, and not in the office, because that was his ballywhack, was the office stuff. And I don't know how he did it, guys. He got assets switched over to his name. He got, I mean, it ended up, now I know that the building that I leased was his building. The land that my trucks was on was his land. I paid rent. But he managed to kick me out of my own business. Left with nothing except for a lawsuit that I tied up in court for years, 10 years. It's never been settled. Now, what I did do is, on the backside, I terrorized the guy in so many ways that he's a shambles of himself now, and the business is totally gone. I had to do what I had to do, right? I could tell you the whole backstory. Other than the money, there was other backstory problems, but it had to do with a woman, and I was totally innocent of everything, all right? It was all totally fabricated, and the guy, he fell for it because a woman pushed him to fall for it. He should have known better. But anyway, I lost. He won. Then he lost. And now he's destitute and has nothing. So, in my opinion, I won. Even though I had to start totally over. Now we go back to the back again, right? On the business that I was looking for. So I knew that I had to get back out and get to work again and start from scratch. And that's what I did. It's the quickest thing I could do. I still had some money, right? So I went and got a truck. And because I was afraid of over the road after I broke my back, because the doctor always said, you're never going to truck again. Not over the road. Went and got a truck, started trucking. Learned I couldn't truck very well, so I started training. That really helped a lot. I put everything I had into properly teaching people and being the best trainer that I could be, which led me to making a lot more money than a lot of other people. Now, in the course of training, I met a lot of people, right? And I can get along with people really well. And of course, they all was like, "Why don't you buy another truck? Why don't you buy another truck?" So eventually, I started buying trucks. Wasn't hard to do, right? I already had one that was paid for. I actually leased the next one. I went in it. I put a driver in that truck. Then I went a little crazy. And I went out and bought 6 more trucks. And I put those trucks on at specialty carriers. And people that I knew or had trained or something like that, especially people that I knew, I started putting them in those trucks. And I was doing really good. I mean, I never broke $1 million with those trucks. But you gotta, this has been 10. This was 15 years ago, and I was still averaging over $875,000 a year. Now, I wasn't getting rich. It sounds like it's rich, don't it? Because, like the Save the Farm debacle, people think you got something and you don't. All right, I always had 20, 30 grand in my pocket, right? At any time I could pull that out. I could have bought anything I wanted, but I never buy stuff. I keep the money in the business. That goes back to the other business. I wasn't only going to pay the other guy that partnered with me $1,000 a week for 2 years, right? Before we ever dipped into profits. And he didn't like that. But that's the contract he signed. And I handled everything the same way in this business. So several years, hums along really nice. I feel like I'm making money. And then along comes a driver who I knew nothing about, but the company recommended him. And he passed all the background checks and everything. The one that ended up taking my truck after 3 days and turned it into a meth lab. And I lost the truck to the state of Oregon. Right? That's what happens. Now, after that happened, I always remember the backstory that I've still got in my head, right? So after that happened, I decided I didn't want trucks anymore because of meth. Because I thought insurance would pay me for that truck, and they didn't. You got to have a special insurance to get paid if something happens to your truck if the person is on drugs. Well, all right. Thank you, OOIDA. That's the insurance I have is OOIDA. All right, so that truck's gone, and I started thinking maybe I need to start testing these drivers. The companies they were leased to, different companies, would test them as a regular randoms, right? But I started saying we're going to pull this person, and if I want a random, I'm going to get a random on a driver. The next driver I randomed wouldn't come in. Wouldn't come in at all. I didn't see him for 2 weeks, guys. I had to shut his fuel card off to get him home. So I parked all them trucks except for 2. And I started selling them. Selling them. Get gone, get gone, get gone. If the driver was good, if I liked him, I'd sell him a truck. I'd sell it to him at cost. Didn't want to make any more money off of him. Didn't feel like I made a lot of money over those years, so I sold them off. Ended up keeping 2 trucks and 1 driver. Another driver kept having issues with his physical and stuff. He was sickly and older, and I just kept him on because I liked him. But over the next year or so, the last driver ended up going through 2 trucks. He messed up the electronics on one, and the other one he blew up. So I said, I'm done, right? I was over here, not here at this company, but I was at Henderson at that point. And I had put the girl on as a student and hired her eventually, right? As she was married to someone else at the time, and me and her did not have a physical relationship. That came along 5 or 6 years later. Y'all stay tuned for the next segment of the rest of the story.